Hi guys, in the run-up to the Irish general election, myself and other commentators claimed that it was the housing election first and foremost, with healthcare coming second and immigration a distant third. There was the belief that the incumbent parties, or at least one of them, would receive a bloody nose, and while support in some parts of the country is down for both, it looks like Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael will form the next government, likely with a few independents to get them over the line. But if it was truly a housing general election, why were the incumbent parties returned?
It's kind of the thing that I find most confusing about this campaign is that it was the housing general election, much like the last election was the housing general election. And we had a period whereby the government could point to, increased building and more planning permissions and more activations and more commencement notices and more social housing and all of this. At the same time, house prices went up, rent went up, homelessness went up, record homelessness figures announced on the day of the election. And the government and the people, in light of all of that, re-elected the same government.
This is difficult for me now, Kieran, because you gave the answer in the question. But the truth is, this was supposed to be the housing election. And in fairness to Sinn Féin, they put a very different housing policy on the table for people to look at. Really, really different from what the government has in Housing for All. And at the end of it, I'm not entirely sure what the people decided they wanted, because there's no clear evidence that, apart from Darragh O'Brien's personal vote in Malahide, there's no clear evidence that people are convinced that the government strategy is working. But perhaps there was fear to go with a new way, to change the direction of travel at this point. And I think perhaps in the latter days, that debate around would the banks give money to the Sinn Féin proposition, would they lend mortgages for the affordable housing scheme? Maybe that hit home with a few people, but I don't think the housing question is answered by this election at all.
It's not. Now, it seems, according to the results of the election, Sinn Féin's support has completely collapsed, down 100,000 votes. Now, that could be down to a number of different factors. The housing issue brought up here. There is also the possibility that in 2020, people were willing to take a chance on Sinn Féin, and this time round not. I've been speaking to a few people in Ireland, and it seems, and this is just anecdotal evidence, but it seems that, well, some people used to lend their vote to, for example, Fianna Fáil in the past, and then gave a second preference to Sinn Féin or another party. This time round, people who would not vote for Fine Gael in the past, lent their vote to Fine Gael as a second preference. So we saw a massive amount of transfer taking place between Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and these transferred votes did not go to other parties as they did in the past. So it seems that a significant number of voters wanted both Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael back in power and not Sinn Féin. Now, as was highlighted here, it could have been Sinn Féin's policy. There was a lot of back and forth in the media about whether Sinn Féin's housing policy would be supported by the banks. Sinn Féin said that they had spoken to the banks and that they were on board. At the beginning, they were not on board. So maybe the back and forth with that on that issue could have harmed Sinn Féin a significant amount. But I think it's also another factor. It's turnout. Turnout was much lower than in other elections. So this doesn't help parties like Sinn Féin that rely on younger people generally. So younger people are less likely to vote, and when turnout is lower, that means that their share of the vote is, of course, down as well. So parties that would rely on a younger vote were hit pretty hard as well. The Green Party took a massive hit as well. So there are a number of factors, but it seems that the main issue to take from this election is that people who voted for Fianna Fáil were backing Fine Gael in their second preference, and the same for for Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil when your priority is Fine Gael. We'll have to wait and see whether the new government is actually going to do anything. The opposition will have to challenge them, of course, but it seems for the next number of years, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are in a very strong position. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.